Welcome to week 1 of Old Testament Survey 2. I'm Dr. Bechtold. I'll be your instructor for this week, not just this week, but for this entire class. And I'm going to post this video to welcome everybody to the class and to help get us off on the right foot by introducing what we're going to be talking about in week 1, as well as talking about some important items to help you succeed in the class. And part of that is getting started right. Just on that note, I want to remind everyone that your first discussion post for the class on the discussion board, Isaiah and Messiah, is going to be due by Wednesday. So you need to have your first post to that board done there. So please, if you haven't already, take a look at the question, be thinking about it, and that's something that you should be thinking about as you're doing your reading for this week. Not only the biblical reading, but the required reading from the textbook. Now, when you're doing your discussion board, I want to remind you of what my expectations are for that. I have posted in the syllabus section of class my discussion board expectations. I've also posted in this week a syllabus and expectations quiz that you're going to be expected to take. You need to take that until you get 100% on it. It needs to be done by the end of this week. Remember, I'm not grading your discussion boards on whether they're right or not. Now, I will be giving you feedback as to whether they're right or not, but I'm going to be grading them based on essentially 4 things. 1, did you answer all of the question? This week, the question is about the historical context of the passage and what elements of messianic prophecy are included in Isaiah 7 through 9. Make sure you are addressing all of that. I'll be looking to make sure that you are citing sufficient scripture to support your case. This is a very, very important element for the discussion board. If you cannot back up what you say with scripture, then it's entirely possible that what you say is not scriptural. Now, yes, of course, a lot of what we all say is scriptural and biblical, but we need to be able to go to the Bible, point to it, and say, this is where I'm getting it, so that we're performing some form of exegesis, that is drawing from the text, instead of eisegesis, that is reading into the text meaning that's not there. So you need to be able to support your answer with sufficient and appropriate biblical support. Now, it doesn't mean you have to quote the Bible. I don't want just a string of Bible quotes. Citation is fine, that is book, chapter, and verse, unless there is particular wording of the passage that proves your case, in which case you can cite that wording that is most appropriate. But for the purposes of the discussion board, we want to assume that everyone in here has a Bible and can look up the verse if we need to find it. When I say appropriate biblical support, what I mean is that, for instance, this week we're going to be discussing Isaiah and Messianic prophecy, so I expect your answers and your support primarily to come from Isaiah itself. Now, you can go to other parts of the Bible, but only after you've established sufficiently and appropriately from Isaiah what's going on. With the Isaiah passage that we're dealing with this week, the Emmanuel prophecy, the knee-jerk reaction is to go straight to the New Testament, talk about Jesus. Certainly there is something to that that we get in the broader scope of Revelation. However, what we want to deal with here is its immediate historical context, and later we can talk about what this has to do with Jesus. And of course, when Matthew is citing this verse, he's expecting that we understand the original historical and biblical context from Isaiah, because he's playing on that, doing more than just simply saying, because this is a virgin, therefore it's Jesus. He's drawing more out of the passage than simply that, so we need to make sure we're doing that. Also, make sure that you are interacting with your textbook reading in some way, shape, or form. You need to, if you get an idea from the text, you need to cite it. If you give an entire answer and you don't cite your textbook, you didn't do it right. You need to, at least in some way, shape, or form, cite the textbook. If you say, well, I did get this from the textbook, well, then you need to cite it, because if you get something from the textbook and you don't cite it, that's plagiarism. I make a big deal out of this because a lot of students, they don't follow these expectations, and their discussion board grades suffer because of that, and I don't want that to happen. I want you to get off on the right foot. I want you to start the class and be set up for success. So make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure you're interacting with your classmates' posts and my posts as well. I will be posting around the middle of the week my own thread, in which will be a video in which I'll be discussing some element of the passage, maybe bring up some things, summarize the discussion, move it in a different direction. So be looking for that and responding to that, but also be responding to your classmates. You won't be able to read their posts until you've already posted one of your own. The reason for that is I want you to be thinking about this passage on your own before interacting with others, and then once you've done that, you can interact with others. Your responses to your classmates need to be more than just cheerleading posts. This is a master's level class, so I'm expecting a master's level discussion and interaction, which is an evaluation of your posts, showing the strengths, weaknesses. Are there anything they overlooked? Is there something that they brought up that you want to add to? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Those are the types of things I'm looking for. Of course, we want to be professional. Of course, you can say, good post, I liked it, but you need more than that. I'm looking for substantial interaction. And of course, if someone asks you a question, I expect you to answer it, just as we would in class. If a classmate asked you a question, you wouldn't ignore it. Certainly, if I were to ask you a question, you wouldn't ignore it. So if I ask you a question on your post, I expect you to respond to them as part of that participation and interaction component. So be looking for that. I say all of this, I don't want these discussion boards to be high stress, but I do have high expectations for them, and I want them to be clear so that you, again, can get started on the right foot. These discussion boards can be very, very good and are an important part of the learning experience, but you're only going to get out of them as much as you put in. And so don't see these as an afterthought. Don't see these as something that just has to be done, but I would encourage you to take them seriously and to get as much as you can out of them by interacting and participating fully in them. Of course, you also have a contextualized application assignment due this week. You can click on the folder and pick one of those, only one. You don't have to do all three, just pick one. And whichever one you pick, the next contextualized application assignment we have, I think there's one in 2 weeks, you don't have to pick the same track. You can explore this. The purpose of these tracks is to get you to explore your calling and see where you may be gifted and what your passions are. So feel free to choose whichever track every time it comes up you want to do. And I would encourage you not to do the one that just seems easiest. I would encourage you to do the one that would most appropriately fit your ministry context or what you think your calling is, so that you can explore that and see how what we're learning can apply in those contexts. So I don't want this video to go too long, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Just to make sure that you're doing all the reading, make sure you're doing the discussion posts, the first one due by Wednesday, and of course that syllabus and expectation quiz and the assignment, the written assignment, is due by the end of the week. That is Saturday at 11:59 Central Standard Time. I've also sent out a survey because I'm wanting to get the best time. I wanted to set up some sort of Google Hangout hopefully this week and talk to you guys. It's not required, but please be responding to that survey so that I can set up the best time when we can have a meeting. And then if you're not able to attend that, it'll be over Google Hangout. I'll post that to the class so you'll be able to see. But it's just kind of a get to know you. I want to set this class up, and I want to see kind of what your expectations are for the class and to answer any specific questions you have. And as always, please feel free to email me. You can see in the instructor info, my email address is there. Also, if you go to the email link, you can email me there. And also call me at any time. And if you're on campus or near campus, of course, my office hours are posted there, or you can make an appointment, and I would be happy to meet with you. I hope we have a great class, and if you have any questions at all or have any concerns, please let me know.